Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about a right scoliotic curve in our thoracic spine and what are some stretching drills that we can do to kind of stimulate the joint receptors up and down the spine. How can we position our lower extremities to drive motion in the opposite direction of where that kind of dominant scoliotic position is to begin with. So I prefer to do these in a corner. Really hard to film in a corner in order to like get the camera angles and those types of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of use the squat rack here as one wall, and then we'll use the actual wall here as the other. So that's going to kind of give me my corner. So typically when you come in, or if you're on a virtual visit, we'll kind of diagnose where the rib hump is or where that scoliotic posture is in your upper back, because that's going to kind of dictate what happens downstream and upstream. And due to that positioning, we can kind of do some drills to stimulate those receptors. In this particular video, the focus is more on stretching, holding a position, and then kind of moving through a range of motion to facilitate some of those receptors going to the brain. So then we can later kind of take this similar setup and progress it into a strengthening drill. So if I have a rib hump on my right, what it's going to do is essentially my vertebrae or my spine in my upper back is rotated to the right, and when that happens, I'll get some side bending in the left. So if we think about that upper extremity posture to begin with, I can simply correct that by going left rotation, because right side bend, by bringing my left arm overhead, and then I'm rotated to the right. And if I just take my right arm and I reach across my body, I'm essentially doing the exact opposite motion of what I just described. So again, side bend to the right, rotate to the left. Now downstream, you're going to get an effect too. So what we're trying to do is we're going to take, I have a yoga block in this example. That might be too high for some people. Just starting off with like a 5-pound plate. That's like about 1 inch, right? Or a textbook or something along those lines, just to elevate a foot a little bit, just because that pelvic positioning. So it's going to cause that downstream effect to where we get a little bit of a change at the pelvis. And if I just elevate my foot a little bit, it'll kind of even that out. And then the rotation that's going to happen. So if I just bring my right foot forward, I'm going to create that relative rotation to kind of reset my spine. And then by holding that position, so again with my left foot elevated on a surface and my right foot forward, then I would take my left hand and I'd rotate overhead, and I'd take my right hand and I would rotate across my body. So I'm kind of creating motion from the bottom up and the top down. Now I like to do that against a wall for that corner, for the part that we're going to get into next, which is going to be moving into flexion and extension to kind of create a 3-dimensional load that stimulates all those receptors up and down the spine. So pretend that I have that right angle here. What I can do is get my foot set, come forward, and then I can side bend to the wall, this wall, and then I can rotate to the other wall. So I'm kind of like locking myself up in that corner. And then what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to move through extension and flexion. And I'm trying to drive the motion up and down my entire spine. And again, the goal of that is to stimulate those receptors. So if I had a left rib hump or that left scoliotic position in the upper back, I would do the exact opposite of what I just said. So let's go through that really quick. So if I'm going to have the rib hump on the left, I'm going to be left rotated, and I'm going to be right side bent. So I need to side bend to the left with my right arm, and I need to rotate to the right with my left arm. And then instead of having my left foot elevated, I'll have my right foot elevated, and then I'll bring my left foot forward. So literally, we're just setting up in the exact opposite position. So make sure that you're paying attention to your notes on your programming to define if you're doing a right or a left, because that's going to change your setup position. So again, this is for a left scoliotic posture in the upper thoracic spine, or the thoracic spine, So right foot's elevated, left foot is forward. We're going to bring our left hand overhead, and I'm going to bring my right arm overhead because I am rotated to the left, side bent to the right. So my right arm is going to go overhead, and I'm going to reach across with my left arm. So going back to that wall setup, I can kind of position myself in the corner, foot elevated, driving that arm overhead, and then I'm creating the rotation on the wall, and then I'm moving through flexion and extension, trying to stimulate my spine. You may need to set up a camera to kind of view if you're really compensating your low back. We want to try to drive the motion as much as we can in our upper back as we set up for some strengthening drills, which we'll talk about in a different video.